What is up, Act Dad family? My name is Mark Savant, and this is the Act Dad Show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I've got an awesome episode here today. Today, I'm interviewing a really cool guest. He is the director of a youth sports league down here in South Florida. He is what I would like to consider a professional cat wrangler, and we'll get into how that is true here in a few minutes. He's an awesome dad of two and an all-around great guy. I got the chance to meet this gentleman about a year ago when I enrolled my daughter in soccer, and it was a blast. I want to tell you all about it. This is going to be a great show. With no further ado, I bring you Mr. Justin Cheresnick.
Hey, Mark, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm awesome. I really appreciate you coming on the show, man. I think you're going to be able to give us a lot of behind the scenes info on what it's like to be in youth sports. Youth sports is something that I believe really strongly, and I think it's really, really powerful to get your kids into youth sports, and you as the father or parent to also get involved in some aspect as well. So I can't wait to get into that.
Absolutely.
So before we get into the meat and potatoes, tell us a little bit about yourself, Justin. How did you find yourself? How did you become the director of a youth sports league? How do we get there?
So I grew up in Coral Springs, the son of a local pediatrician. So I grew up playing sports competitively, played through high school and kind of stopped right before college. And for a similar reason that most kids are stopping playing sports at an earlier age now, it really wasn't fun anymore. I wanted to go to college and enjoy college rather than put in all the hard work to continue playing that sport, right? So I was in the insurance industry and I didn't really love my job, and I think it was time for a change. My wife had noticed that I was unhappy. Kids start to notice you're unhappy, and I was coaching my son in t-ball and kind of looking around and kind of realized that I-9 Sports was a franchise. I really liked what they were all about and how they were doing their running their programs. And honestly, like the third season I was coaching, just kind of had this epiphany of, hey, let me look into this and see what's more to it. How can I get more involved? Because if there's a way for me to do that, what better way to get out of something that you don't love than to try and take over something, where you enjoy it and have a passion for it and can really make a difference in some lives. For me, ultimately, just each question led to the next one where I really didn't expect it to get past the first conversation. And honestly, it happened really fast. In a matter of like 3 or 4 months, we went from 0 to 100. And
awesome.
No looking back. It's been about a year now, so a little over a year.
It's fantastic. So I think that you did something that's really important in that you took care of yourself. And that's something that a lot of dads forget to do is, hey, if you can identify that you're unhappy or unfulfilled doing something, you have to find ways to be happy, right? Because if you're not happy, no one can be happy around you, right?
No, I mean, look, that's, I knew I wasn't happy for a lot longer than, my wife and my family, but, when it starts affecting them in such a way where they look at you and say, hey, look, we know you're miserable, whatever it is that you need to do to kind of, to not be miserable, right. To be happy.
Right.
Because that's not my personality. I'm a happy, fun loving guy. So, you come home and you're miserable, you wake up and you're miserable. Everybody says, oh, that was such a big, like a big jump for you. I mean, it was, but I was miserable. So something had to give at some point. So I just feel very blessed to have found the opportunity to be able to work, like I said, work with kids in sports. It's like, my worst day at this is far better than most of my best days in insurance. So.
It's a beautiful thing, man. Beautiful thing. So one of the things that I think is interesting as well that you said is you were actually coaching before you ended up deciding, hey, this is something that I might want to pursue, being a director of all these cats running in every different direction and wrangling them together, right? So what was your coaching experience like leading up to your director status?
So I love coaching, right? My dad coached me growing up. Like I said, I played, competitively from 3, all the way through high school. And the truth is that my dad taught me the things that we preach now, 35 years ago, right? All the kids get to play. All the kids get an opportunity to play the same, the positions. It's not just the coaches' kids and the best kids. All the stuff, get out there, try and play different sports, right? Sample different sports. I played all different sports all the way up until I got to high school and made the decision to stick with baseball. All the stuff that we really believe in as an organization, and honestly, what like the United States Olympics Committee and, the Aspen Institute stuff, all these research is coming back saying, look, these kids don't need to be ridden so hard so early. Quite frankly, they say up until the age of 12, they should be in the discovery stage. So For me, coaching was something that I enjoyed. Doing it in this organization made it even more fun because I think, as you know, seeing some coaches are a little bit better or more devoted than others. A little bit more hands-on, a little bit more willing to get dirty and play with the kids versus kind of get through the time. And those are the guys that we want. Those are the guys that we want to have out there because they want to be out there. They enjoy it. It's about the kids. It's not a burden, right? Because it's not easy herding those cats. Sometimes it's a little bit frustrating, especially with the 3 and 4 year olds.
Yeah, I know when I first started coaching my daughter, I was gung ho about. I'm like, I've got this curriculum, I got this plan. I'm gonna line them up over here. They're gonna be one time, and I'm gonna raise the next Ronaldo over here. It's gonna be beautiful, and I want to be the only coach. And I get out there, and I've got one kid chasing dragonflies. My daughter's booking it to the playground. I got another kid rolling in the net. And I'm like, I'm sure glad that not only these other parents here, but the I-9 sports guys are here to kind of help, like, keep the herd together, you know.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's a communication thing, right? And any good business, right? It's communication, right? Communicating with the coaches, kind of, we kind of let you guys know what you're in for ahead of time. We try to give you the details and stuff, but you don't know until you get out there exactly what you said. You could be more than prepared, and you walk out there and it's like, oh, great. What, the 4-year-olds don't want to listen to me? I mean, they're not listening to their own parents, and they're not going to listen to me. So, but that's why we do it the way we do it. It's all, we try and find ways to bring them in and make it more fun, right? Not all about the soccer drills. How can we reel in the 3 and 4 year olds and get them engaged to stay in the box and chase the ball around, if nothing else, right?
Sure.
So it's all about kind of getting with the parents ahead of time and say, look, we're not out here to raise Ronaldo at 3, 4, 5, even 6, 8, right? We're out here to teach these kids to play with one another, sportsmanship, teamwork, things like that, in addition to, kicking the ball in the net.
So do you find that the kids that are typically enrolling in the various sports, you guys do a lot of different sports too, right? Like soccer, football, baseball. Do you guys do basketball? Mm-hmm. So you're doing
all. We have a lacrosse program too.
Awesome. So you got you're hitting all these major team sports, right? Mm-hmm. Do you find that a lot of the kids that have joined have experience in them or are interested in them? Or do you find kids from all walks of life joining the I-9 Sports League?
We get a lot of early one, because we start earlier in the city leagues. We start kids at 3 and 4 in soccer and t-ball. So in that regard, obviously we're getting them when they're new. Sure. But we get plenty of kids at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 even, who haven't played or played very little. They want to try it out. Our format is the way that it is for a reason, right? It's 1 day a week. It's, depending on the age group, from an hour to an hour and a half. We're all busy, man. We got stuff going on. They're doing homework in kindergarten and first grade already. Forget the ones that have ballet and dance and all the other things. Oh, and mom and dad working and everything else. So we do get a good mix, right? We get a lot of kids that play in the city league, and then when their city league's over, they don't have anywhere else to go and play until the next year. I remember when we were soccer, you play for once a year, and you wait 8 months, or you go play the next sport that was available, right? That was, that's how they got you to sample sports back then. You didn't have a choice. If you wanted to play, you played what was available. Right. I think what we do is great because 7 weeks at a time, kid doesn't like it, you can still kind of teach them about commitment and teamwork and committed to the team, right? 7 weeks, you don't like it, we can move on, right? Whether it's to a different I-9 sport or to a different sport entirely. And we have some kids who don't love team sports and they're just not gonna, but that doesn't mean they can't play golf or go bowling or swimming and other things, that are out there. So.
Well, I think it's important as fathers that we're constantly pushing our kids to try new things, especially in these formative years, because frankly, I don't think kids really know what they like or know what they want to do. They've got to try different things. They've got to taste different activities, right? So I think it's really positive to get kids into different athletics and different team atmospheres. Like you said, not only are you teaching them social skills, but you're teaching them how to overcome challenges, how to follow directions, how to follow. Yeah, like I like for all you podcast listeners, he's got a huge smile on his face as soon as I said how to listen to directions, because, well, yeah, once you're a coach, you'll understand that a little bit more. But also, I think every father can coalesce that, man, it's hard to get a toddler to listen to directions. It's tough.
Oh, man. Yeah, well, I guess the one fun thing about being a coach is it's really funny when you get that red shirt on there. That are not your own tend to look up to and listen to you fairly easily, right? The
Yeah.
younger ones are a little bit harder, but once you get to like 4, 5, 6, they oh, hey coach, whatever, what can I do? However, whatever, right? But my kids, off, yeah, dad, whatever.
Right. Right. But I think that's a cool thing too for your kid to see, okay, this is how my dad interacts with other kids and children. And I think they kind of vibe off that. I think they say, okay, well, if this is the way that my role model, my father treats my peers, this is probably the way that I should treat my peers as well.
Oh,
Right.
100%, 100%. I mean, look, and I learned it from my dad. My dad's still involved. You see my dad out at the fields every week, whether it's partially watching my kids play, but it's also partially checking out the little operation we got going on. Because I told him, I said, I'm not going to medical school. I'm not going to, take over your pediatrics office. But I think I found another way to kind of extend that legacy with the youth in the community. So.
Yeah. And that's really good. I think that's a really cool thing about getting involved in a sports league like this is you get to meet a lot of other parents and families that they're interested in the same things that you are, and improving your kids, giving them a better opportunity at life. Right.
Absolutely.
There's so much good value. What age do you think is the right age to enroll your kids in a sports league like this? What's the right age?
So obviously I'm going to say 3 and 4 was when we start. So look, all everything that we do, all of our programs, they're put together by and designed by professionals, right? So, 3 and 4 for soccer, who might argue with the professionals, right? And
Yeah.
it's not easy. I mean, it's not, but I also believe that it's incredibly beneficial to get those kids out there and get them started, because it's all about the expectation, right? If you expect to put your 3-year-old out there and have them go play the game of soccer, it's not. That's not for you. That's not real. That's not reality, right?
Yeah.
Putting them out there and getting them to go through those bumps that you go through when introducing a young child to something new, right? Getting them accustomed to being around the other kids, getting them to interact with the other kids, listen to the coaches versus the parents, not run to mom on the sideline. Simple little behavioral things. Forget the fine motor skill development and all the other stuff that comes along with it. So the earlier the better, as long as the expectations are set. Right. I mean, there are programs that start even earlier than me, like soccer shots and stuff like that.
Right.
They do it at 2, and they do drill. They're a great program as well, right? It's a totally different animal. I mean, God,
I mean, you
power to
look
them,
at,
man. They got the patience to deal with 2-year-olds. That's hard. 3 and 4 is hard enough. So,
yeah.
it's just, what do you really want? At 2, what do you really get in there? I mean, at that point, I think you're doing fine motor skill type stuff, right?
Right.
And then it's age appropriate too. So flag football, we start at 4. Basketball, we don't start till 5. But that's more of a product of being able to get the ball to the hoop. We could start them earlier than that. We have some kids who play with dad out in the court, and they're like, "Hey, my 3-year-old can go run circles around the 6-year-old." So, okay, who am I to say you can't play, right? The more kids that are involved, the better, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what we care about, right? Get the kids out there, get the kids active.
Yeah, get them out there, get them having fun, getting them engaged. And that's another thing I think is really important about getting dads out there. And so that brings me to, I guess, my next question, in that how many dads are actually showing up, or is it just like the moms are bringing the kids and they're over reading their tablets? How many dads are actually getting involved, getting engaged?
We got a lot of dads out there, I have to say. I mean, I'm pleasantly surprised. Families in general, right? We get a lot of mom and dads. We get a lot of grandparents, aunts and uncles.
Yep.
I don't know if it's the atmosphere, that we kind of institute out there, where it's, my staff is instructed. You say hello to everybody. You high five every kid, more than one. Nobody walks by. You have a smile on your face. Look, if you can't be out here and have a good time, there's plenty of other people who can and would. Because this isn't going to be the most lucrative job that you've ever had, but it's probably going to be the most fun job you've ever had. I mean, working with kids and seeing the smiles on their face. Look, that's the payoff. Getting out there on the weekends, seeing the kids playing, all the other stuff that goes to putting it all together. I want to be out there on the weekends.
Right.
I want to see the kids smiling, having a good time. I want to be the one out there giving them high fives. So,
and from my experience, all the coaches were really cool too. Like, it wasn't like super heated, and
no,
I mean, there was some competitiveness, but it wasn't like, yeah, kill, maim, conquer, right?
Yeah, no, and again, I think that's, communication and setting the expectations. I mean, we have the coaches meetings ahead of time. We get about half the coaches show up to those coaches meetings, but that's mostly because the other half have done it before and probably don't. It's really about setting that tone and that culture. And then, on opening day of every season, we walk around and talk to all the parents and groups and kind of set the tone and say, this is what we're about. This is where we are. If you don't like it, you have a question, a concern, or whatever, please, let me know, because I'd rather know about it and have the opportunity to try and fix it and rectify it than find you week 6, cursing, screaming, and unhappy.
So do you ever run into that where, parents or coaches are getting really heated? I mean, look, in the little toddlers, I have a hard time believing that occurs too much, but how much
Very,
does it see?
very little. I mean, we've had a couple instances. I think one was soccer, one was basketball, but it's all, look, in the end, it's all silly, petty stuff because I had one guy who got really heated. He was yelling and screaming. I wasn't at the venue that day, but I heard all about it. And the guy sent me an email telling me how, he wants his money back and this, that, the other. And I'm like, well, okay, that's the easy answer for me, right? You go away, I give you your money back and have a nice day. I said, but what about your son? Your son having a good time out there? And he said, yeah, he's really mad at me because I'm pulling him out of this. And so after he was done kind of letting me have it for a few minutes, I said, well, what about him? Because this is an easy situation. You didn't have to lose it out on the field. All you had to do was say, look, my son's not being challenged. Can we move him up in age group? And everything would be all great. But you went off on everybody out there now, and it's a big, massive problem. Long story short, this ended way better than I ever anticipated. He went back the following week, apologized, kind of hugged it out with the guys. And ultimately ended up being a coach the following season. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, everybody has a bad day. Reflexively, I want to kind of say, yeah, you're not welcome to come back because that's easier. But I usually try and wait a day or two, let them cool off. And then, it's about the kid in the end, right? So,
I'll say I'm really impressed with the way that you handled that situation because for a few reasons. But the big one is that when the kid sees his dad going off and losing it, what you're doing is you're training your kid, you're teaching your kid that this is how we act, right? When we don't get what we want, we yell and we scream and we curse and we do all this stuff, right? Which is just not a healthy way of handling things you don't like, right? I think most people agree with that. But for you to be able to chat with him and talk with him and say, hey, I understand your concern with him being challenged. How can we challenge him, or how can we help your son be to that level that you want him to be at, and working together for the solution that he ends up becoming a coach himself? I mean, And now his kid sees, okay, my dad lost it, but then he came back and he apologized and they made up for it.
That was an important piece of the agreement with him for me, was for him to make sure that when he came back to the field, that the kids in particular saw that he reached out to the father who he kind of got into it with, and that the other coach. Yeah. And I had a similar situation in basketball, and fortunately both, I can probably, I've been doing it for a little over a year, so about five full seasons now. I've had 2 instances where it's been like that. But you always get the crazy ones too, who, are mad at you because it rained last night and the field's not this, and, but.
Yeah, well, maybe one day.
You can't please everybody.
Maybe one day you'll be in a dome, right? One day. But I will say that, like, I think out of all the things you do, just those two, that one example, you may have changed the course of that kid's life by seeing his dad lose and come back. I mean, I might be overstating it a bit, but kids are so, I mean, they need to see the way their father acts. I just think it's so important for them to see that. So, Justin, I have a question for you to kind of segue a little bit for dads who maybe have never coached before, thinking about coaching. What's the value to them for being a coach?
Oh man, I can't tell you how rewarding it is for me. Regardless of my child, I've coached many teams where my kid's not even playing just because of what I do now. And if you enjoy it and you care even a little bit, just seeing the progression, and the overwhelming majority of the kids that we deal with are 8 and under, definitely 10 and under, but we probably have 90% of our kids are 8 and under. These kids are all about having fun and enjoying life. And for me to be able to be like I said, you put that red shirt on, they immediately look up to you. They want to listen to you. They want to eat everything you feed them, right? It doesn't even matter if it's right. Like, that's obviously we want you to teach them, but those kids will do anything. Go run 100 yards just to run 100 yards. Okay, coach. Right. So for me, it's all about working with the kids and, getting to see them progress and to see the smiles on their face when, perfect. I'm a big baseball guy, right? I like coaching baseball in particular. The coach pitch division I'll often get myself involved in. And, we start off with, the kids, some of them can't hit the coach pitch. We pull the tee out, let them hit off the tee. By week 3, 4, 5, these kids are hitting the pitches. This sense of accomplishment and the gratification that you can see all over their face. is incredibly rewarding. And again, that's not my own kid, right? Obviously, it's even more so when you can see this happen with your own kid. But for me, it's just that interaction with having the ability to change a child's life, whether it's one child or all of the children on the team. For me, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
We need more good coaches. Honestly, we need more people and to be a good coach, honestly, it doesn't really have anything to do with knowledge of the sport per se, right? Especially with these younger age groups. It's really more about your desire and willingness to interact with the kids. We can teach you drills and teach you how to, play the sport and teach the kids the game. That's the easy part. It's, your ability to disseminate that information and interact with the kids. That really makes a big difference.
I think more so than anything, it's just going out there, maybe drinking a couple cups of coffee, getting out there and just putting your game face on. And you said, it's not so much about your technical knowledge of the sport. It's just about getting excited. We spent a decent amount of time when I was coaching my daughter, who's now 3. We spent a decent amount of time just playing freeze tag or red light, green light, or
duck goose. Absolutely.
Exactly. Just these simple things like following directions. Obviously we kicked a lot of soccer balls and we trampled the opponents at every opportunity mercilessly.
At all costs.
Yeah. But it was just a fun experience. So I definitely think that any dad out there that you can set it. That's one of the cool things I like about I-9 is it's one day a week, right? So you don't have to jot out once or twice a week for practice and then game day. We go out there, we practice for a half hour, then we play for a half hour, and then it's breakfast time.
Yeah, so absolutely. And look, we try to make it easy. We send practice plans to all the coaches. One of the really cool things, I just got back from our national convention a couple of weeks ago. I mentioned before the U.S. Olympic Committee and the Aspen Institute. We're fairly heavily in bed with them because they believe in everything that we're doing philosophically. They have a great new app and a website out there called How to Coach Kids. Anybody who's interested or even thinking about the possibility of coaching, I recommend checking out that app. We're actually building it into our system to be our coaches training. But I've made all my staff go and watch it, even if they've already done this for a long time and they're really good at it, and asked all the coaches that I've come in contact with prior to the season to download and check this app out. It's about 15 or 20 minutes to run through the course, and it's unbelievable. It's really incredibly helpful, and it really sheds light on how things should be done with kids in youth sports, and how to translate the information to them in a way that they'll really enjoy and keep it fun for them.
Yeah. I think that's probably one of the most important things is getting them out there, making sure that the kid is having fun so that they continue going back for more. But I don't know. I just think it's really important for dads to do things like this.
Absolutely.
Because more so than anything, when you're out there on the field and you're coaching, you're dealing with all these different situations. It's almost helping you. You're going into an uncomfortable situation, and over the course of the season, you become more comfortable. Kids look up to you and they say, "Oh, Coach Mark or Coach Justin or Coach what have you." And I think it's really positive for everyone all around. So I would encourage any father out there, regardless of whether you've ever picked up a soccer ball, never touched the ball with your hands. That's rule number 1. But regardless of ever you played a team sport before, I couldn't encourage you enough to get involved with coaching your kids. It's a really powerful thing that you can embark on. A lot of really good stuff there. So what are the things that you find most challenging personally about coaching? What are some of the things that you find personally about coaching, Justin?
I think it's the stuff that everybody kind of is worried about, right? How do I tell other parents' kids what to do? How hard can I push? Are the parents going to be rude or not like what I have to say or do? But honestly, I think, kind of a little bit along the lines of what you said, right? Even if you've never done it, after you've done it for a little bit, you start to get comfortable. And I think if you're out there with the right intentions and you're out there to, you care and you want to be out there and you're kind of doing your best. Like everybody's a volunteer parent out there, right?
Yep.
We're out there to do this for our kids, right? To have a good time and hopefully, have a positive experience. I think that makes a big difference. And for what it's worth, the majority of our coaches that are out there are fathers. When we're recruiting them, making all those phone calls, the first person that we call on the list, for good or for bad, right, this day and age, right, the first person we're calling is dad, because more often than not, dad says yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's awesome. So I want to ask you another question here. It's something that I've thought about a lot in being in a sports director. You probably given this some consideration as well. Trophies, right? So what is up with trophies? It seems like nowadays, no matter whether you're a winner or you're a loser, you're getting a trophy, right? So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that the age matters, or
I
what are
think
your thoughts on eighth place trophies? Let's
I mean,
start there.
I think you just hit that nail on the head. I think the age matters, right? I think when we're talking about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Participation trophy, everybody gets a trophy. That's great, awesome. It's almost more like a completion, an accomplishment than it is a champion, right? We do. Every kid gets a trophy in our league. Again, 90% of our kids are 10 and under. So the first thing that I wanted to do when I took this over was to drive those older age divisions, right, to where we can get it to where there's 4 teams. And by older age divisions, I mean like 8 to 10 and then 10 to 13, because I do believe in competition. And while every child will still get a trophy in that league, you can then have first, second, third place trophies. So
Yeah.
what we pride ourselves on, right, is age appropriate competition, age appropriate programming. And, up until the age of, everybody is going to give you their own number, right? But, I guess what the Olympic Committee says is up to the age of 12 is the discovery phase, right? The kids should be playing and doing and seeing everything. Now, my kid's not going to be playing, non-competitively until the age of 12, because he's probably he's going to hurt somebody, right? Like, there comes a point where, when the kid's good enough, you want to put them somewhere where they can kind of go and continue to grow. But that being said, I think there's a time and place for that.
Yeah.
And I certainly think that, before 8 and under, it tends to be, really, you want to rah reward them. I mean, we do the sportsmanship value of the week, where a kid gets the medal each week, right? And that's, it's trying to instill the sports, whether it's listening or honor or respect, right? And the kid that best exemplifies that gets the medal. But that comes back to communication too, with the coaches and the parents, because this is the first week, the first kid gets a medal, all the other kids go screaming and crying. And, we said that, hey, look, coaches, this is how it's going to be. Parents, every kid's going to get a medal. We need you to work with us when your kid doesn't get the medal that week. Tell them, do the right thing as a parent, right? Encourage them to work hard next week, pay attention to the word, and work hard, and you'll get the medal next week. So, but we do give every kid a sticker, right? Because
Yes.
7, 8, and it's amazing, right? We want them to leave happy. We want them to leave on a positive note and have, leaving that experience and wanting to come back next week. So,
The stickers,
yeah.
I'll tell you what, the stickers are a huge hit. Those kids, I don't know what it is about a sticker, but those kids go nuts for stickers. Oh, funny story too. I made a mistake week one. I bust out the stickers at the end of the game, and I start saying, and the kid comes up to me and says, and I made this very simple mistake. I said, "Which color do you want?" And I learned very quickly that you can't ask them all which color do they want, because everyone wants green or everyone wants blue.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was a deep moment for me.
Well, and then the best part is you have to remember to take the stickers off the shirt, because I don't know about you, but my kid's uniform has like 4 stickers, washed onto them from.
Yeah.
The good news is that they're reversible, so right, you only get half of them. You don't end up with the whole season's worth.
Right. Man, those stickers. But yeah, I think, yeah, I'm with you there as far as what the Olympic Committee and everyone's saying. Like, I think up until age 10 to 12, you want to try to be as inclusive as possible for the kids. You want them to feel like, okay, I'm working towards something. I think a participation trophy is okay at that point. But if you really want to push your kid and maybe get them into something more serious, I think there should be options there too, right?
Absolutely, and there are. That's the city leagues are there. I mean, look, there's a place for. Look, I-9's not a one size fits all for everybody, right? I mean, what we do very well, but we're not going to be your 3 days a week practice and show up in 2 games, right? That's just not what we are. We're never going to be that, even in our older age groups and age divisions, right? But there are plenty of places down the road, and I'm happy to recommend them to people. So, I don't necessarily view these other programs as our competition so much as I view them as other options for people.
Yeah.
I refer people to the First Tee all the time for golf, and the various tennis clinics around town. So as far as I'm concerned, at the end of the day, I just want the kid, as many kids playing as sports as possible,
Yeah,
because I believe that it has such a tremendous value in life.
Agreed. I'm definitely with you. It's all about fun. I actually was talking with the dad at a playground a few weeks ago because he said, "Oh, my kid can do whatever she wants. It's all good. She can do whatever she wants as long as she does jujitsu 3 days a week till age 18." And I'm thinking to myself, like,
Hmm.
you realize you might drive her to hate jujitsu by doing that,
Well, that's
So
funny you say that because that's the soccer story that I was telling you about the father who ended up coaching. The kid was 4 years old. He was better than everybody else, and
yep.
what we asked him to do, he kept getting out in front. Right, we always have the one kid who's better. He runs off and scores 5 straight goals. Right, take the ball, go, take the ball, go, take the ball, go. So what do you do there? Right, you ask the kid to pull back a little bit, play some defense, pass the ball once or twice before scoring. Right, we didn't tell him don't score, but let's pull you back and
Learn some other
get
skills.
some of the other kids involved. Right, teach you to be a soccer player. And that's when Dad lost it. And he said, I'm training my son to be a striker, and you can't tell him not to score goals, and this, that, the other. So this is pretty much what he laid into me about for 10 minutes, and that's when I kind of stopped for a second, and I just kind of told him what I personally believe, which is, and by the way, the statistics say that 70% of kids are quit playing sports by the age of 12 because it stops being fun. It
Yeah.
doesn't stop being fun because the game isn't fun anymore, right? It's the parents and the coaches. So I just kind of asked him then about his kid, how much he enjoyed it. And he said yes. And I said, well, if you keep riding him like this, there's a really good chance you're not going to get to see him play high school ball. So that's kind of what had him kind of shut down for a minute and kind of realize and stop. And then he came back and he actually, thank you so much for kind of putting that perspective out there. And I didn't really ever think about it like that. And, I'm still going to coach the crap out of my kid, but I can at least see it from that perspective and think about it a little bit more. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Justin, I really appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your busy cat wrangling day to chat with me. I feel I'm just really excited that we could have this conversation because I think the more kids we get in sports, the more dads we get into coaching, the better the world is going to be. I just think there's so many positives, and we just kind of touched the tip of the iceberg on some of these issues. So before we close out, I just want to pass the mic over to you one more time and say, hey, if you've got any parent out there who's been thinking about getting his kid into a sport but not sure about it, what would you tell them?
From a personal standpoint, reach out to me anytime you want, right? Via Instagram, via Facebook, my cell phone number, I'm not hard to find. It's all over our website. So, reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions because like you said, the more kids we can get out there, and more importantly, the more dads, parents even, but yeah, specifically dads, coaching. We need more good coaches. That's that. If we have more good coaches, the kids are going to want to keep playing longer because the good coaches are the ones who keep it fun. So
yeah. And where can we find you at? I9 Sports Broward. Where can we find you at, Justin?
i9sports.com, Northwest Broward, and on Instagram we're at i9sportsis84.
Love it. I'll put that down in the show notes for anyone who is interested and wants some links. So, Justin, without further ado, thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your busy day. This was a great conversation. And if we could get one extra dad and one extra kid out there on the field, I would be happy. I'd be happy about that. So thank you very much.
I couldn't agree more, Mark. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Beautiful. Have a good one.
Thanks, you too.